Hey everyone, this is Ashley of CT Muni Digitals. I'm going to do a tutorial to show you how to use my new wrinkled paper backdrop overlays in Photoshop. I'm going to do a few different ones, just different photos, and show you different ways to use them. I'm going to do this one first. I'm just going to go over to my overlay, select all, edit copy, edit and paste into my image. I'm going to hide that layer for now. I'm going to click on my background layer, click on my quick selection tool, and select subject button up here. And it looks like it selected her pretty good. If I was worried about any areas, I would just zoom in and use my plus and minus tools to refine it a little bit. I'm going to duplicate my layer, create a layer mask, and click Control or Command plus I on my keyboard to invert the layer. And then I'm going to make my overlay visible again. Go ahead and resize it. I'm going to click this button up here to make sure that it's not selected because I don't want to keep my proportions for this one. This is important. The light on the overlay is coming from the same direction that it is on my image. If it were different, I would just right click in there and flip. So what's most important about these overlays is your blending modes. Depending on what look you're going for, I typically use them on soft light. I can't really say typically because I just created them, but all the images that I've done with them so far, I have used them on soft light blending mode. So I'm going to head and put that on soft light. Now before I clip it behind my subject, I want to create a floor on this. So I'm going to go up to my rectangle marquee tool. I'm going to drag about where her knee is over and down to the bottom of my image. I'm going to go up to Edit, Transform, and Perspective. I grab my Move tool and I'm going to drag this bottom out. Oops. Oh, why is it doing that? Sorry, I'm going to go back up to Edit, Transform, Perspective. There we go. And drag the bottom out. And as you can see, it extends that out as if it were continuing onto the floor and it were a floor. Press OK, unselect that, and then I'm going to go ahead and press Alt and click between my layers, or you can also right click this layer and create clipping mask, and that's going to put it behind your subject. Now, as you can see, it's not very visible. I could leave it this way, but I'm actually going to duplicate my layer. And then I'm going to lower the opacity on that one just a little bit. Now, if you do anything to these layers, you want to unclip them from behind your subject first. So I'm actually going to do that because I want to make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to actually delete this one for now. I'm going to work with one layer at a time. I'm going to go up to my adjustments. I'm going to make a curves layer. I'm going to create a clipping mask to make it go just on my overlay by clicking right here. And I'm going to drag this down just a little bit because the lighting on here I already have is not too bright. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and merge those two layers. As you can see, that made it more of like a gray, but when I put it behind my subject and put it back to soft light blending mode, it's going to look like a white. And then I can duplicate it again if I want and just lower the opacity on that. Okay. And this is, I don't know how I feel about these wrinkled paper backdrops. Yeah, it's like a new trend that I noticed, so I figured I'd keep up with it all and make some for the Etsy shop for everybody. And then go ahead and zoom in on your subject. Click your layer mask right here. I pretty much have my black brush at 100% ready to go ahead and brush it off of parts that I don't want it, because that's going to happen if your selection isn't perfect. Which mine looked pretty good. I'm actually going to switch to white, which means I'm brushing it on because I'm going to fix these areas right along the bottom, and that just means I'm brushing the overlay onto those parts where it didn't really catch. And a lot of times that's all that really needs touched up. Okay, and then I want to make her a little bit darker too. So if you want to work with just your subject, you can actually click on your background layer, your initial background layer. I'm going to go up to my curves again. I don't need to create a clipping mask because it's the only layer underneath that I'm working with. And I'm just going to drag this down a little bit, make her a little bit darker. I'm going to click on that layer and I'm going to grab my burn tool on shadows at about 20% and just add a little bit more shadow into there. And that just made it so it blends a little bit better. If you wanted your backdrop to be a little bit darker in certain spots, you could click on this layer right here, and that allows you to work on the background and not her. So if you wanted to work on just your subject, this layer. If you want to work on the background, it's this layer. And I could grab my burn tool and put it on like midtones and make certain parts of the backdrop darker if I wanted to. So that is that one. I'm not going to add blur to that one. If I wanted to, I would just click on each of these layers, go up to filter, blur, probably wouldn't add much, probably about 3. Do it on each one, and that would be it. So it gives it an artistic look, I guess. It's just different. It's becoming popular. So, okay, so there's that one. I'm going to do this one next, which I think is one of my favorites. So I have these in all different kinds of colors, but you can change the color. You don't have to obviously use that color. So at first, I'm going to change this to a black and white layer. I'm just going to click my black and white adjustment preset on there. I'm going to flatten it. I'm going to select all, edit and copy, and edit and paste into my image. Resize, it doesn't really matter the order that you do this. Okay, I'm going to hide that layer for now. Select my subject. Which takes a minute. Go ahead and duplicate the layer. Create your layer mask, and then Control or Command I to invert the layer. Click back on your overlay, make it visible. Create that clipping mask. I'm again going to use it on soft light. I'm going to grab my marquee tool a little bit above the knee. Edit, transform, perspective, and drag that out. Click my check mark, and then I'm actually going to extend that a little bit more. Okay. And now this is not visible enough in my opinion, so I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to duplicate it again. And then I'm going to lower the opacity on that one so it's not as strong. And then on her, I want some clarity added to her, so I'm going to go up to Filter, Camera Raw, and I'm going to add some clarity. That's it. That's all I wanted to do to her. And then on these layers, I'm going to go ahead and merge all 3 of these layers now. Merge, and then I'm going to change it back to soft light. Sometimes alright, I'm going to undo that. Honestly, don't know why it does that sometimes, so I can just come down here. I'm going to grab my white brush at about 20% opacity, zoom in, I don't know why I tried to merge those layers anyways. I'm not even working on those ones. So this is just going to be painting the overlays onto certain areas. And since she has kind of a see-through dress, the overlay kind of made the image a little bit darker. So I want to add some of that into that part of the image. Just show you what I did there. Just that way it blends a lot easier. Flatten, and that one is done. Okay, so that way you can change colors. If you want it to blend right into your background, you can change it to a black and white layer. That's probably the easiest option. Or you can pull it into your image and you can play around with your hue slider and try to get it to match your backdrop. Okay, now I have this one. I'm going to go ahead and select her first with my select subject button. I'm going to, looks pretty good. I'm going to duplicate my layer, create my layer mask, Control or Command I on your keyboard, invert that layer. I'm going to come over here, select all, edit copy, and edit and paste into the image. Again, light is coming from the same way. I actually didn't even check on the other one. I'm pretty sure it was coming from the right way on that one. Let's see. Yeah, it was. Always check that because that's going to make a huge difference. So from the get-go, I want to say this might be too bright, but we'll see. Once again, soft light blending mode behind my subject, and I actually think that that's not too bright at all. But I do want to add some clarity to the backdrop. So I'm going to go up to Filter and Camera Raw. Just add some clarity. Hit OK. Alright, and then I'm going to unclip it. So if you want to change the color, you just do Adjustments, Hue Saturation Layer, and you can just slide this right here. You can see it's changing her too. You just create that clipping mask, which is that button right there. And you can change it to numerous different colors. I want to, let's see what it was at. Tone it down just a little bit. And then you have to merge those layers and then create your clipping mask again to go behind your subject, and you'll have to change your blending mode again. I'm going to grab my MRK tool again. You have to create a floor. These are not going to look realistic. So this is an important part. Edit, transform, perspective, and drag that floor out. You could, if you click on this background, grab your burn tool, since it's on the backdrop and it's on soft light blending mode, you can see through this a little bit if you wanted to add some like depth and add some shadow back there behind her. I would click on her and add some more shadow on this side. Nope, it's on midtones, not shadows. Add more shadows on that side. Don't forget to zoom in and clean up the edges of the overlay that got on your subject. Once again, usually selects it pretty good with that select subject button. Around the bottom of the dress is where I find myself working the most. Okay, that's it. Before, after, obviously it's easier if you have the same color backdrop, but you literally don't have to. If I were to not put this to black and white first, just to show you, Actually, I'll use this one since I already have it selected. Edit, copy, edit, paste. This one I'm going to right click because I have to flip it because the light is coming from the opposite direction. Okay, I'm going to hide it. Click on that, click on her, select. Select subject button is taking a long time. Okay, duplicate the layer, create a layer mask, Control Command I. Okay, and now I'm going to do this on soft light too and see how that, since it's on soft light and because of the color backdrop that I put it on, it's a different color. But if I wanted it to be the color, if I wanted to change the color, so I would do this first as if this was the backdrop I was using. So I would make my floor, or create my floor. Marquee tool, transform perspective, drag it out. And if I wanted to be done with it, I could be done with it. If I wanted it to be a different color and I didn't want to use the method before, I could duplicate the layer again. And instead of soft light blending mode, I could put it on color blending mode. And that would make it the color that I started out with. Or you can grab a different color of your choice. Say I wanted it to be the same color as her dress. I could just hold down my Alt key, select that color, and paint over the backdrop. Ta-da! But yeah, that's another way to do it. You can just duplicate that layer and change it to color instead of that. That works if you're on certain blending modes. It will not work on all of them. Obviously, a lot of blending modes aren't going to look right. Typically, overlay, soft light, and multiply sometimes work. Those are like the three main ones, but typically soft light I do it on. Overlay actually looks really good on this one. Would actually use overlay on that. If you have any questions, you can message me on Etsy. If you are a studio photographer, you can join my group on Facebook. It is linked in the description.